G'day and welcome to this presentation. I'm Derek Whittaker. It's so fantastic to have you here today. Obviously, you've come through edgeradioaustralia.com and where we dive into financial education, what's going on in the markets and around the world and economies. And it's so great that you can join us. So welcome. Fantastic. And of course, if you haven't checked us out, you can with the Greater Wealth, the show we do on Mondays at 1 p.m. Australian Western Standard Time. Okay, so let's get into tonight. I need to do a quick little disclaimer before we get into it. Before we start, we need to tell you up front, we're not a licensed financial planning, accounting, or law firm. We're simply an education company who'll give you factual information. We do not give any general or specific advice on finance, options, trading, or anything else. That's not what this presentation or courses that we do, that's not what this does. So please see any license. Please see a licensed financial planner for any financial advice that you need. Let's dive in with that formality out the way. So getting into it, let's have a look. I'm going to just tell you a little about my background, who I am, what do I do, all that sort of stuff. We're talking tonight about how to fund your life purpose, understanding techniques the wealthy use. And the critical emphasis there is your life purpose, because I'll show you in a few minutes some incredible stats that came out a number of years ago. And I think the sentiment's pretty much the same. And of course, with the whole COVID thing in 2020, a lot of people have woken up to this and going, hang on a second, what is this all about? So super excited to dive in with you. Who am I professionally? Well, okay, I got my start in radio, so working with the guys at edgeradioaustralia.com has been absolutely fun because it's taken me back to where I started in my early career, and now I'm combining my two passions of presentation, media, but also with finance, so it's the best of both worlds for me. I did 14 years in radio, did a little bit of advertising with TV and stuff like that. You get around in voiceovers and all that sort of thing. And I then did a big career switch. I got into the world of accounting, law, and financial planning firms. It was a one-stop shop, all in the one place. And that was fun. I was like a kid in a candy store when I did that, just absorbing, hanging around these amazing accountants, lawyers, and financial planners. And soon I started knowing too much, talking to clients. They said, you got to get some qualifications, Derek, because I was just a sponge of that information, and did become a financial planner. Eventually I became a director of an accounting firm, and then a director of an international property syndication as well. With the global financial crisis in 2008, 2009, we bought a number of properties in the United States from Australia, and we ran that. I'm a trader. I'll get back to that in a moment. Stock options trader particularly. I also run my own business called Blue Sky Factory, educating on trading and wealth. I've written an online course on stock options trading for registered training organisation RTO Mentor Education, who basically give the qualifications to financial planners in Australia. So that's another course niche that I've been able to do. Founding director of Trading Institute and Blue Sky Factory. And I'm a partner in a private trading fund. So basically we trade other people's money, rich people's money on the stock markets, and we get paid if we make profit. We don't get paid if we don't make profit. So we've got a lot of incentive to do that, which is a lot of fun. And we do that with a team. So I'm a partner in that. And I've got a diploma in financial services and a Bachelor of Arts in English. So that's a little bit about me on the professional side. On the family front, this is a real passion. This is why I do what I do. I've got an incredible family. There's my girl, my wife, Christy, who, has really taken things to a new level in terms of motivation in life. When I was single, I was a little bit lost in radio, but these kids here who we were raising together, my son and three girls, my son needs a haircut in that photo, I can see. See that. They range from ages 11 right through to 1 now. And my wife is amazing. She homeschools them. So she's a tired mama a lot of the times because baby needs her. And through the night, the young ones keep her doing the night shift. And then during the day, she's doing homeschooling. But she's a big motivator for me. I love deep conversations. I'm not a guy who, I did a house renovation, all that sort of stuff. I'm like, let's get into the meat of stuff. And I think that's why we're a good mix here at Edge Radio Australia. We get into the good stuff. And I've got Travis, who's part of Edge Radio Australia, pushing the buttons for me and helping me out tonight with your questions as well. So let's get into this content. How to fund your life purpose by understanding techniques the wealthy use. And that's the big difference between what the wealthy and the poor do, which I want to look at tonight, to really dive in. What are those key factors that make a difference? But before I do that, I want to tell you a little bit of a story. In 2016, the National salary survey by the Australian Institute of Management discovered that a staggering 4 out of 5 Australians are unhappy at work. In other words, 80% of us hate our work, hate our job. And when you think about that, that's a horrible way to be living life, to basically get up each day, go to a job that you cannot stand and go, what's it for? Can't wait till the weekend. How many people are actually living life that way? They just can't stand what they do. And they discover that and put an actual quantitative figure. And what's fascinating about this is that if you have a look at these stats a little bit closer, the 81.9% leave their current role in search of new challenges. This is back in 2019. Bear that in mind, because since 2020, we've had things called the Great Resignation, where a lot of people have come in and resigned from their roles of what they're doing, which really says, you know what, they've worked from home and they've realized, why am I working so hard? This is not what I want to do with the rest of my life. So I'm going to have to reinvent myself or look for something better. Now, speaking of looking for something better, more than half back in 2016 were leaving their jobs due to limited career opportunities. And according to analysis from 25,000 employees across Australia, okay, so this is a broad section. It's not 1,000 people. This is 25,000. 44.4% leave because they're looking for better financial rewards. Okay, so money was a bit of a motivator, but we're finding with the surveys that are coming out post-COVID that people are going, you know what, it's not really about the money, and there's actually a skills shortage. So employers are trying to throw more money at them and to get them in, but people are going, I want flexibility in lifestyle. So it's been this big shift going on as far as people really looking at this. What is my life purpose? I want to have some significant meaning from what I do. For an employer, somebody leaving the job, this equates to $26,410 on average to find a replacement. So it is expensive retraining people. So what you want to be able to do is give them an incentive to stick with you as an employer. I have found incredible things happen when people really buy into the mission of what you're doing and what you're trying to achieve. And so that takes it to a whole different level. All right, now let's have a look, diving deeper. We're paying a huge price for not enjoying our labor. It's costing us as a nation, and that's really, really critical. There are many who write about making the workplace a positive experience. If you go to work inspired to do what you do, it's not a job anymore, it's a joy. And that is really an environment that you want to be in. I've heard so many people hating the toxic environment of their workplaces, and getting out of that is really, really key. In 2011, Richard Branson said to CNN, the best business are born out of frustration. All right. I think that's a really interesting insight from an entrepreneur who's made it. For Branson, his decision to create an airline, Virgin, evolved out of his own frustration as an airline passenger. He basically came to the conclusion, screw it, I can do it better than you. And that's what led to the Virgin Airlines that you and I can travel in today. I have found that if you're not living out your life purpose, there's this restlessness that exists in you that basically until you find it, you'll keep searching, you'll keep looking. And I believe a lot of that resolves also in being connected to your Creator and God. So when you have a relationship with Him, you find out the assignment and purpose He's written for your life, and then you can live it, which is really, really important to be living, because you know what? Life is too short. All right, so let's dive in a little bit further here. Ancient wisdom, got ahead of myself. Ancient wisdom tells us, but godliness with contentment is great gain. All right, so that's key. If you're looking for great gain in life, which most people are when it comes to wealth, godliness with contentment, living guilt-free in life and being content with what you have, getting to that point, you go, you know what, it really doesn't matter what's in the bank balance, what my bank balance looks at right now. I'm happy with what I have. That's a really powerful position, because then your happiness is not subject to your wealth or bank account. It's actually external. It's from or internal. It's that relationship you have through the Spirit with your Creator that is so key to understand here. there's a great story in the Bible, and you might be wondering where I'm going with this, but it's a key in understanding finances. So you'll see in that ancient picture that there is a guy who was a master, and he had three servants. You can see the one in the background there. And what they do is he goes away on a long journey, and he gives them different portions of wealth that he says, I want you to manage this while I'm away. All right, I want you to increase this. The Bible took some talents, which was actually a wealth, and it was a substantial amount of money. All right, it's about a year's worth. One talent, from memory, was about a year's worth of income, and he gave 5 talents to one of his servants. To another, he gave 2. And the third he gave 1 talent to. He's gone on a long journey for quite some time, and when he returns, they give account for what they've done with those funds. And basically the one he gave 5 to, he says, I have increased it by another 5, so therefore you have a total of 10. And he says, well done, good and faithful servant. This is fantastic. To the second one reports, you gave me 2 and I've doubled it. I now have 4. And he says, that's fantastic. Well done, good and faithful servant. And then the third one, he says, what have you done with your wealth? And he says, sir, I know you to be a harsh man, and I was afraid, so I buried it in the ground. And here it is in return. He said, you foolish one, you could have at least put it in with the bankers and got interest on this, and you didn't. In fact, let's dive into what he says here. There is this key here that says you have squandered it, and you will give an account for your destiny. We'll dive into that a little bit more in a moment. But there's 4 key parts to this story that are really, really important. There is an expectation for wealth to grow and increase and to be managed properly. That's the first one. There's an expectation for it to grow, all right? A lot of people come in with a mindset of, I might face losses, and they're concerned about it losing money, all right? So your relationship is very interesting to money if you expect it to grow or you expect to lose. And it's fascinating how that's all set up. Now, losses happen. I've made losses in trading. It comes with the territory. And my first mentor once said to me as a trader, he said, Derek, if you can learn to make losses, you'll become a great trader. And I was like, what do you mean by that? And he showed me a strategy that basically showed me how to stack the odds in my favor when it came to trading, and to accept that, yeah, there was going to be a couple of losses in that. But if my wins outdid my losses, I was going to be ahead. But many people are too afraid to even make one loss, and therefore they never take risks. So it's a really interesting relationship that they have with risk. And so you can see there, and to one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, to each according to his own ability. Now that's really, really interesting, right? You have been given an ability. You have been given a talent, a God-given talent to live out on this earth that is unique to you, that I can't do. There are things that I can do that you can't, and vice versa. There are things that you can do that I can't. And you have an assignment in this life, and the world needs you to do your assignment. We need you to do it, all right? Because you have a contribution to make. So please, will you get on with that life assignment? Will you do it? Will you discover what it is? Because it's so critical that we understand that and have that contribution to it. And immediately this guy goes on a journey, the master. So more is added to those who are faithful in a few things. This is the second key we see from this story. Because what happens is they take the wealth from the guy who squanders it and buries it in the ground, and he says, give it to the guy who increased it by 5. And he gave him cities to be entrusted with. And that is incredible when you think about it. So if you're faithful in the small things, more is added to you. So think about it this way. I'm training my son at the moment in terms of money and how to manage it. And he's gotten, when they start, they get a few coins, $1 here, 20 cents there, coinage under $10 when they're starting really young. Well, now my son's now dealing with he's made a sale recently of $65, okay, and then $90, and he's then invested that money into silver. So now he's got a handful of ounces of silver that he's now managing as investment to grow that. And now he's looking for another venture so he can get more silver. So he's looking at other business ventures. So he's grown from having a few coins to now dealing with some some precious metals, and that's what he's done while doing it through business practice, and that's how I'm training him. So you can see you would have been managing hundreds for a while. Hopefully you're now managing thousands at least, and then that grows to 10,000s, hundreds of thousands, and then when you grow, if you decide and go that path, millions, and then hopefully billions. I was challenged recently. God said to me, you know what, Derek, you think too small. I thought, what do you mean I think too small? I think like a millionaire. He says, I want you to think like a billionaire. And I was like, okay. How does a billionaire think? So we're all on our own path. We're all on our own stages, and you're meant to grow. There's an expectation that you're to grow, and two, if you're faithful in the small, more will be added. All right. So the third key here is the one who does nothing loses all that's been given to him and is cast into outer darkness. This is great suffering for eternity. This is not good. This is terrible. When I first saw this, I was like, whoa, that's the consequence for not doing your life assignment. That's the consequence for not doing this. This is huge. And that really made me even more passionate about, hey, you've got to do your life purpose here. So please, whatever you need to contribute to the world, get on with it. Get in relationship with your Creator and do that. The fourth one here is stewardship is so key. In addition to giving in life and giving to others, we're also to understand and practice stewardship. What you do with funds, and sometimes it can be a very small thing, is so critically important, okay? Obviously, you can't live beyond your means, otherwise you're going to get a deficit. You're going to go into debt. So these little tweaks are very hard to do sometimes. I mean, people find, most wealth educators will say you need to save at least 10% of your income, but how many people struggle to do that, right? So it's really important. Even sometimes the small things are really important. Now, stewarding other money is really, really important. I find that I sometimes will look after other people's money better than my own, okay? Because I accept that there's a responsibility there. Why? Because my reputation is on the line if I muck it up, all right? And that's a really important insight in terms of how to manage your own funds. It's not yours. If you look at it and go, hey, this is God's money and not my money, you're going to look after it better. If I have to give account to God for my money, you're going to look after it better than you would if perhaps it's your own. And that's a really interesting psychology to shift there in your mindset when it comes to money. Also, as an owner, you'll look after this a little bit better than perhaps if it's like you're leasing it from someone, all right? So if you have a fancy car in the parking lot and I decide to, just pop out and grab a sandwich at the deli there, and I say to Travis, hey, Travis, can you look after my car for a moment? Then these dudes come with baseball bats, so they want to bash the car and start damaging it. Do you think Travis is going to look after it as much as I'm and go, hey, hang on a second here, what are you doing? Well, Travis is a great bloke, but, I would probably rise up and go, hey, you know what? What are you doing in my car, right? And rise up there. And that's just a natural tendency. Sorry to put that to you on you, Travis, but it tends to be that way. The other one is when you're living your life purpose, everything else falls into alignment, I've found. And that's really, really important to understand. You get that right, then you wake up in the morning, you realize what life is about, what you need to do, and you stay focused. And everything else then goes, right, what do I need to do? Values are really, really incredible. I can tell someone's value very easily, or values very easily, by two things. You know what they might be? One, observing what they spend their money on, and two, what they spend their time on, all right? So if they spend a lot of time watching movies and entertainment, that gives me an understanding as to someone who probably spends time in books and wanting to improve themselves and wanting to increase their knowledge. There's a big difference there that I can see in terms of values. You can go to someone's house and you used to be able to tell that very quickly, if they had a lot of books on a bookshelf. These days, you kind of make that exception because it's all digital now and on iPads or whatever it might be. So that's a little bit harder to tell now, but I could tell that very quickly, walking in and you see these big stereo and television systems and no books. But yeah, you can see very quickly what somebody values. All right, so next one, if we look at this, I want to dive into how to live your life purpose or fund your life purpose and fund it by understanding techniques of wealthy use. Let's look at some differences between the wealthy and the rest of the population, shall we? There's some really key differences here to have a look at. The first one is this, and it's really, really interesting. It's really important to understand. So this cannot be more understated. There are certain things that the wealthy have done that the rest have not. We have to recognize that, okay? What are the wealthy doing that you're not? There's a difference. There's a gap. Wealth creation in many ways is a process of executing a plan, knowing that things will come up in life, all right? Challenges will come up. When you start a business, oh boy, when I did, all hell broke loose. I remember that happening. And there's still challenges that I face from day to day. And very often the thing that comes up is you. You are the one who sometimes cannot, is the blockage to you breaking through. All right. And you got to have a good, hard assessment and look at what's going on in my life that's working and what's not working here, and take an assessment of what is really, really, really going on here. All right. So the first difference that the wealthy do that the rest of the population don't is they have a different mindset. They have a different mindset. The wealthy entrepreneurs think differently. All right. I hear a lot of people who basically, when they talk about, oh, I can't wait for the weekend, right? Or they want to escape. Oh, I've got free movie tickets and all that stuff. You know, I know a lot of entrepreneurs who hate going to the movies. Why? Because they look at this and go, this is going to be a waste of 2-3 hours of my life when I could be building my business, which is going to bring me wealth. That's how they look at it, right? So that's a really interesting thing. If you're trying to give someone a prize or a gift, you know, for an entrepreneur, don't give them movie tickets, because they look at that as a bit of a waste of time. All right. They want to look at things that, how can I improve myself, improve my wealth, and that sort of stuff. Wealthy people think very differently. I'll give you an example, okay? A relative of mine, a close relative of mine, is very successful, has had a very successful career, launched out of his own career and went and built a number of businesses in childcare and then in gyms, fitness gyms, CrossFit gyms, all that sort of stuff. Now he's getting into aviation and all this sort of stuff. But I remember one time he got a bunch of bees. Okay, he's got a number of acres. He lives on 5 acres, and he wanted to make his own honey. So what he did was, most people, if they wanted to do honey, what would they think? Where can I buy some hives, right? Not him. You know what he did? He decided instead to put an ad in the paper and says, bee collection, as if he were pest control, $250, right? So he puts that ad out there. Well, before you know it, he's getting calls and he's going out and collecting these bees, all right? So he's getting paid to acquire the thing he wants, all right? Then, of course, he starts producing honey and he sells that. He sells honey to here, he sells honey there, so he's making money here and there. After a few years, he gets tired of it because he finds, it's a lot of mucking around for not much return. And he's just finding that a lot of people don't want to pay for it. So he's like, I just really did this for me and wanted a bit of an interesting thing. So what does he do? He then advertises and sells the hives for about $450 a pop with all the ones he had. All right. So he's made money, 3 bites of the cherry along that journey. Whereas most people, look at the ones who bought the hives off him, paid money to receive them. Whereas what he did was he just collected swarms that had come along. So you can see the difference in thinking, that subtle difference there of how can I get paid for what I do. I'll give you an example. I started thinking that way before I got into the finance world. I started thinking that way in terms of media. I wanted to go to the AFL, the football, right? And I thought, how can I do this for free? Well, I was working in media and I finally worked out, you know what, if I get a press pass, I can go and report on the games and I get to sit in the press box, in the corporate box and watch this game and get paid to do so. That was kind of the way I started thinking about this sort of thing. So you've got to recognize wealthy entrepreneurs look for opportunities all the time. In recessions, huge opportunity. While everybody's talking about doom and gloom and this is the worst thing, they're thinking, all right, where's the opportunity in this? How can I help people and make a buck and be a service to humanity? And recognizing that a business does one thing. It solves problems, all right? So anytime somebody has a business, if you need a hole in the wall to hang up a picture, you go down to a hardware store and you buy a drill, all right? What's the drill do? It simply puts a hole in the wall. It's solving a problem, okay? And that's what business people do with products and services that solve issues. And it's a really basic way to think of what a business does. They're open to opportunity. They're continuously improving themselves, wealthy people as well, and engaged in self-improvement. They have no qualms in spending money on themselves. I've noticed that, particularly if it's going to increase their knowledge and wealth. I deal with a number of very successful entrepreneurs who want to learn about trading and stock options trading, right? So I train a lot of these very wealthy entrepreneurs on this sort of stuff because they're going, you know what, I want another source of income and I want to learn about this area because I don't know anything on the investment side of things. They usually have a very high sense of self-worth, okay? They have no qualms about spending money on basically what's going to improve their health. Particularly, I've noticed they're very, very generous when it comes to their health. All right, they'll eat organic food. They'll make sure that it's uncontaminated. They'll see health professionals to get them good results, so that they can be set up to do their purpose, their life assignment. They aren't afraid of failure, okay? They know that one failure is a closer step to success, okay, I tried that one. That didn't work. Now I'm going to try this. So that really is really important to understand. Very often they're very focused and very driven. That's a very common attribute amongst entrepreneurs. 80% of trading is mindset, 20% is strategy. That's what my first mentor taught me. And that's such an insight into how important it is that mindset is the key, right? So the hardest thing we do in our trading group is waiting and sitting around waiting. Why? Because we have to think. And there's a lot of time to think while waiting for the market to move. So, you might be on a trading desk and trading at the time, and I like to put Netflix on the background or something like that just to keep me awake, because I'm often doing this at night, and just to keep my brain occupied, because I'm just watching these charts go, and that keeps me occupied and doing stuff. The hardest thing is what's going on in the mindset, so recognizing that. The second attribute that differentiates the wealthy from the rest of the population is they're very good at understanding about their own power and their legal rights, okay? This is really, really important to understand. They know what their legal rights are. They know what they're empowered to do, okay? They don't put up with nonsense. They will challenge the system. Entrepreneurs typically are disruptors, and they'll challenge how most people think. They don't think like the rest of the population, right? So I, for example, don't watch mainstream media, not very much, unless I'm digging on a particular issue and researching it and that sort of stuff. Why? Because I'm protecting my mindset. I don't want to think about the lies that are being produced there in often the cases. So how do I know this? Well, I used to work in media. I know how the message is manipulated so often. I can see right through the agendas and how they're twisting and putting bias on it. And I just don't have time for that negativity. So I don't watch a lot of mainstream media anymore. Just on this, the general understanding of law is really, really critical to understand as well, okay? So if you get this in the right order, you'll get to understand how this works. So common law works this way. It understands that God created man and woman. Man and woman then created government. Government creates job for public servants to serve the public, being the key word there. And under common law, there is an acceptance of innocent until proven guilty, okay? So if you have a case against someone, there must be evidence to prove that they are guilty. You must have facts and factual information. Now, this really helped me in looking and working in a law firm, because it really helped remove a lot of the emotion that I had to finance, understanding I have to have facts. What are the facts? And this has really helped me as a trader. I've applied that understanding that I learned in law firms. What are the facts? So if I'm stuck in a trade, I go, okay, the market can only move 3 directions, up, down, or sideways. If my position in this trade goes up, this is what I will do. If it goes sideways, then I'll do this. If it goes down, I will do this. I break down the problem like this according to those facts. And I've removed a lot of the emotion through that process by doing that, because it's amazing how many people get emotional about finances, and that's something that I'm continually working on. Yeah, I have my moments, I get frustrated with funds, and I don't become like a machine, but I recognize, okay, sometimes that is not helpful. I've got to put my emotions under control and do that. I'm human, okay? I do get emotional about money from time to time, okay? Why is this working? Why isn't this client paid me? Or, why are we still waiting for this investment to come off? I'm human, and we do that. But it's really important to understand that is the key of common law, and understanding that is really important. What's been happening of late is government in recent years has tried to rule over man and woman rather than serve man and woman. And what has crept in is what we call guilty until proven innocent, okay? And that is martial law. The problem with martial law is it doesn't have the facts, and it's making you and trying to enforce you to admit guilt, all right? We see this when someone is issued what they call a speeding fine, where it basically says, please provide evidence that you're innocent of this alleged crime, okay, that you've gone over the speed limit. And it doesn't really, you can't really argue with a piece of paper or a camera or radar on the side of the road. It's, if you're not the driver, then prove evidence of who was, and all this sort of stuff. And that is creeping into our legal system that is really, really wrong and big and really concerning, because it doesn't stop there, right? It grows into further situations, and this is what we've got to really address in our society. Entrepreneurs are aware of this, and that's why they've got good lawyers in terms of what they do. They check in with their lawyers, let's get this squeaky clean and legal, and then if anything comes up, boom, onto the lawyers. They surround themselves with really good understanding of lawyers who can get in the boxing ring and fight in the court if need be. Nobody wants to go to court. Most court cases are settled outside of court. But my point is, they have a good understanding of what their legal rights are. All right, let's move on to the next one here. I beg your pardon. As a result, because of these systems, this is important to recognize here as a side note, many of our best entrepreneurs in Australia have moved overseas as a result, okay? Tired of regulation, tired of heavy taxation, and we've lost some of our best business leaders that could make our nation more prosperous. And this is the problem that we have got because of this martial law that's trying to creep in. There's a passive resistance and revolution that has been going on in subsequent years and has, I would say, really stepped up since COVID. And there's been a stronger push back to these political bodies who have really taken people's rights away in terms of freedom of movement, freedom of association, and even body autonomy of what freedom of health choice, all right, in many instances. And we've watched this grow. Now we're seeing that emerge. It's that men and women are starting to take back their legal rights and power and demand government serve them again. And that has really been amplified in the last few months of this time recording in 2022. What is now emerging is people are tired of the system and status quo taking their power. We started to see this when Britain started to vote to leave the European Union around that time in 2018. And Italy was showing signs of dissatisfaction as well when it came to the EU. The emergence of Donald Trump being elected in the United States was really interesting to observe because he was not one of the system of politics that came through. The contrast leaving the Obama administration to him, people thought it was a joke, media would joke, but boy, he got the last laugh when he actually took office. And that was really an interesting move there by the people of the United States saying, we want someone who will represent us. Let's make America great again was their slogan. So it's interesting to see these social things come through. Now, if you look at what's been happening since, of course, the COVID thing, look at that march on Congress on January 6, 2021. It's after Trump claimed the election had been stolen. So people went onto the Capitol. I'm not advocating violence and all this sort of stuff, but this is the underlying resistance that is going on in society now as they recognize, they say, hey, the elites are trying to control us here. We are pushing back here. Macron lost his majority in France. Macron, I should say. Boris Johnson resigning in the UK was an interesting thing in 2022. As we saw so many ministers resign, over 50 at that time, to demand his resignation. Draghi under extreme pressure in the UK. We said Rutte and the farming uprising in the Netherlands, where, of course, farmers were told that they would have to, because of climate change, which is a political movement, restrict the amounts of size herds. So they were driving their tractors on freeways, dumping manure in the middle of freeways. The Netherlands provide a huge contribution to the food bowl in Europe as well. So we saw that going on. We saw Trudeau getting resistance from the truckers in Canada, who were basically protesting against the restrictions. I believe it was about mandatory vaccination in that area as well. They're like, no, we won't do that. The truckers were resisting against that, keeping their trucks parked, and people were actually giving them fuel as well to keep their trucks going. Very cold in the middle of the snow, so they needed the heat in their trucks, and people were providing that, walking around with jerry cans so they could, and then they were trying to ban people from doing that. So all these people would just run around with different jerry cans that were empty and all that, just to confuse the authorities. We saw Sri Lanka storming the House of the Prime Minister and the President in July 2022. I'm sorry, that should be on another line. The Biden getting very few people showing up to his midterm campaigns in 2022, whereas Trump was packing stadiums of over 100,000 people in the same town. It was really interesting, and the Biden could not get half a gym field, as mostly his people and entourage. We see Iran rising up over the protest death of Mahsa Amini after her arrest by the morality police. So it's also happening in the Arab nations, in the oil-producing nations. Numerous freedom protests in Australia, and the outcry from the world on policing practices in Melbourne that were taking place in 2020 and 2021. The world looked on us and like, are you the friendly country anymore? The laid-back, easy country? I mean, that police department has a huge PR problem now in rebuilding trust with the local population. We saw people leaving Melbourne, up to 30 to 35,000 people just leaving, going, we've had enough. We're going up to Queensland. That's where they mostly went. And then that was after the longest lockdown city in the world during COVID 2021. So we're seeing a lot of people resisting now, going, hang on a second, we're fighting for our kids here. If we're going to have any hope of freedoms for them, that's what we're going to do. So in terms of technology too, it's really interesting. It's never been cheaper to start a business. That is really exciting for entrepreneurs or would-be entrepreneurs, okay? The fact that you can have social media, the fact that you don't have to have certain licenses to do things anymore in certain industries, where you can get your message out through social media. Check with, of course, the suitable advisor on those sort of things before you go, I don't need a license. Always get the advice, but there's certain industries where you don't need to do that. It's never been easy to get your message out to the masses and make them aware of your existence. You know, it used to be you had to put an ad in the paper, and that could cost you near $100,000 just to get a decent spread in the newspaper, which ends up being tomorrow's wrapping for fish and chips. So that was really, really interesting. And then suddenly, you know, on social media, you could pay just a small amount of money to get a huge reach to thousands of people and very target specific. It's totally changed the game. As far as business is concerned. So we live in very interesting times. Entrepreneurs think differently from the average Joe. They're very sharp in identifying opportunity and have a mindset that sets them up for success. They push limits in thinking and achievement as well. They're always trying to challenge themselves typically. What can I do better? What can I do better? That is particularly so in the early stages of an entrepreneur. Once they've made it, they then tend to let off the gas a bit and go, okay, can I start up another business? Should I, now that there's systems in this one are going really, really well? And number 3, the difference between the wealthy and the rest of the population is they have a very high level of self-esteem and will invest in their self-development or improvement. Okay, I've seen, as I mentioned earlier, they have no qualms spending good money for good advisors in terms of education and getting that. I've dealt with a lot of them, and they have no qualms in doing that, which is fantastic, because they know they're the ones that if I want to go to the next level, I need to invest myself and have this education from somebody who's done it better than myself. Okay, the next one here. They have a healthy understanding of how money operates and have a good sense of emotional intelligence. I mentioned earlier about emotions, okay? It's really interesting, having worked in law and accounting firms, how many people get emotional about money. And trading particularly has a real knack. I once had someone tell me this, and it was a great quote. Trading will show you every fear you have surrounding money. And it does, because if you fear losses, that comes out and it's amplified in those environments. So they're aware of that, and they learn to handle those emotions very, very well. It's particularly in conflict situations as well. It helps them in negotiating deals. I remember Trump being a big entrepreneur as well before he made it into politics. The Art of the Deal, wrote a book called that, and learning how to negotiate. They look at different techniques in terms of how to negotiate deals as well. He has an interesting habit, Trump. He knows what he wants, and I often notice that he tries to negotiate to get the individual right where they are. So let's say, I'll give you an example. We're looking at each other right now, and let's say I said, "Hey, I want to do this." I might come up really close to you and say, "I want this deal here." And what you do, you back off, right? You get a little bit further away, which you might be doing subconsciously right now, as I'm so close to you. And then I go, "Fine," because I actually want this, so I'll back off on the deal. Right, back off to here. So then you come forward. You naturally step forward. It's a really interesting technique if you try this with someone. Just putting you in their space as far as your body presence is concerned. They'll tend to back off, and then you back off, and then they'll tend to come back. That's kind of what they do in negotiation. He would then get them to the spot where they want them. Right, I'm going to build a wall, and I'm going to make Mexico pay for it. Well, he probably just wanted permission from Mexico to build the wall, right? Set up this big fence. And then, okay, you don't have to pay for it, but we want the wall. The wall is always the issue, is trying to stop people coming over. And that's really an interesting place of the art of negotiation. They have very good advisors around them. I've already mentioned how they've got good lawyers. Good accountants as well are absolutely critical. And you can't go with cheap accountants when you start to step into this level. The more you pay a good accountant, the less you're paying in tax and other business expenses and overheads. A good accountant these days is actually a business coach, all right? Because they can help you. I've paid for business coaches. I pay my accountants really well. I don't have one. I work with a couple of firms. We've got a great legal team in what we do. Happy to pay them good funds. I even engaged a specialized accountant recently, trying to find one. I was looking at a project in farming. Okay, it's really hard to find an accountant that understands farming and also is an accountant. All right, so I had to search and search and search. I finally found one. He gave me some great advice. I'm looking, potentially at lots of zeros for this kind of investment. Paying him $450 for him to do some in-depth research for me. No problem, because it's going to save me a lot of money. He's going to see things from an angle. He's got street cred when it comes to farming that I don't. So this is the kind of way you have to think about it, rather than just, hey, I'll build it and then they'll come. I look for that. I've been on the phone to a number of accountants even this week. Just, how do we do this? How do we do this? If we do it this way, can we do it this way? And just twisting it and looking at the picture. How can we launch this new project? So we have to have good advisors. I remember working with a financial planner one time, and my wife and I were doing our life insurances and all this sort of stuff. And he pointed something out to me that was staring me right in the face. The problem was I was too close to recognize it. Right? So it's really, really important that having that objectivity to what you do is really, really good too. The sixth thing that the wealthy do that the rest of the population don't, they typically are very conservative when it comes to investing. They don't want a lot of risk. They don't want to risk all the wealth that they've amassed to something that's foolish. And when it comes to researching opportunity, they know how to apply good stewardship. So one of the things that I do, I teach stock options trading. Now, stock options trading typically in the mainstream, and if you'd asked an accountant, sounds really risky. That's the response they say. But what if you look deeper into it, right? Stock options were actually done to hedge things, protect portfolios. That's what they were originally designed to do. Now, Wall Street being Wall Street, basically likes to speculate on these things. But because I have an understanding, I went really deep into understanding when I started this, going, there's something in this that I need to get. And the further you go into it and understand it, you realize there isn't a lot of risk at all. Why? Because I understand it. And that's what the wealthy will do. They will research, right? Because the more they understand it, the less they risk when it comes to taking on that project. So I've been looking at a project and I'm going, does that business model work? No. Does that business model work? No, I've done the numbers. And I've researched it, because when you're risking millions and millions of dollars, right, that research or lack of research will cost you if you don't do it. So that's one real critical thing that's really important to do as well. All right, the seventh thing that the wealthy are doing that the rest of the population aren't, they are over the obsession of owning things and prefer to control things. All right, they're the puppet master. They don't want to own it, they want to control it. And they do this through various financial entities like companies, trusts, self-managed super funds, sometimes foundations. This gives them advanced asset protection, okay, and tax minimization ability, and has some grasp of how accounting and legal structuring works, whether it be locally or internationally, for both profit and non-profit sectors. Really important. I know that's a lot to take in, but they look at being what we call a penniless bum on paper, right? And just want to control companies and entities to be able to minimize their tax, but also protect their backside in case a lawsuit occurs. And the trouble is that the litigation now these days is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, all right? So some of them, I typically would see this, hey, Derek, I've got 7 investment properties in my own name, and I want you to minimize my tax. How do we do that? That was a lot of the stuff I would consult with and this sort of stuff. And it's a real mess if they own all these assets in their own names. So we would say either you've got these choices to get out of your names or this choice. It's going to cost you this much to do it. You're going to pay extra in tax, all this sort of stuff, and we'd have to break it down. It's better to start with a clean slate. Hey, I own nothing. Fantastic. Let's start putting in the right infrastructure now in your finances and structuring to do this, to give you the asset protection and the tax minimization capability. So we want people penniless bums on paper as much as possible. An accountant who says, hey, you want to start up a business? Oh, I'll just do it in your own name. I always see that as an indicator this is not a good accountant. I need to find someone else, all right? And I test new advisors, all right? I want to know if they know this stuff, right? I'll throw this. I'm doing this. What do you think? All right? And their response says to me whether I can work with them or not. All right. I remember the day I had to sack one of my accountants. Okay. I'd had them for many, many years. They'd really helped me. And I had set up a trust structure, and she absolutely flipped out about it. Right. What have you done this? Only wealthy people do this. And I walked out of that consult with my wife and I said, I'm not a drinking man, but I sure could become one after that experience. Good grief. I realized then and there that if I didn't lose her as an advisor, she'd keep me poor. And I didn't want that. She's got to go. All right. Of course, wealthy people do that. That's what I want to become. So I remember that day and I moved on to other things. Yes, my accounting fees went up, but hey, the money I invest with them is what I save in taxation and heartache if litigation were to occur. All right, good. The 8th thing that the wealthy are doing that the other side of the population aren't doing is they run their finances like a business. It's more streamlined. It's more has systems in place to do this and make certain payments. I mean, good grief, my poor wife, the amount of bank accounts I have set up, it just does her head in, right? And so when she wants funds, she's always asking, hey, can I have some money to do this? Because I control things quite a bit. I'm very mechanical on how I manage it. And I go, all right, well, it's got to go through this account and this entity to go to this entity, to go here, to go there, whatever, right? The way I do that, I'm very strategic as to why I'm doing this, right? But that's how I treat my own finances, because I want it streamlined and I want it efficient to do so. And I'll even stop, even when it's inconvenient to do that, even if I'm through drive-through, the drivers are getting behind me frustrated. I'm like, no, I'm going to do this because I want to do it in such a way that gives me the best advantages financially to do this. So I don't mind if they wait, particularly if someone is trying to serve me. Well, what else are they going to do? They're there to serve me, and this is how I'm going to do it. So I look at basically how to also minimize my tax. See, one of the biggest differences between the wealthy and the poor is this: pre-tax and post-tax income. The wealthy pay for their living expenses first and then they pay tax, whereas the poor pay tax first and then they pay for their expenses. And that's one of the huge advantages that the wealthy have over the poor, is the way they structure the finances. We call that pre-tax income versus post-tax income. Post-tax income is poor, basically. So as a business owner, you can write off so much: your phone bills, your internet connection, your IT expenses. You can also do business trips. Often, they will work in other things around that, a holiday around that, around a business trip or investment that they've got to do to get those minimizations. Talk to your advisors before you start doing those things, because there's certain rules and conditions on doing that. So have a good understanding of what proportion is business and what is pleasure, etc. But it's a smart way to do it, right? And that's what they're always looking at, is a tax break. How can I do this in an efficient way? That's how they're wired to think. All right, number 9, in terms of what the wealthy are doing that the rest of the population aren't, they have a very good understanding and appreciation of how the banking system works and some of its history. They understand how money is created, that traditionally it's been what we call a fiat system that is based on credit. And they understand that how the banking system works, that it can be created in many ways out of thin air and be leveraged and all these sort of tricks. And when you have that understanding, it really reduces the emotion when it comes to debt and they can't pay their debts on time or having some cash flow issues. They know the game. And what we're doing here is we're taking this thing that is often emotional, gets people worked up and lying awake at night worrying about things. And when you treat it like a game, right? That money is a game, that cash flow is a game, it takes the emotion out of it, and you tend to do it better because people enjoy games. That's a big shift in the mindset there, right? So when you understand how the banks play the game and how the history of where all this came and how we got notes that represent, this thing here. I mean, what gives this? I'll show you right now. What gives this value? Yeah? Is it actually the paper it's worth that makes it $50? It costs, I don't know, last time I read about 60 cents to make one of these, right? Is that or a couple of bucks with notes? But is that what gives it value? No, it's because we agree that this is legal tender to swap for goods and services. So it's what it represents. And when you begin to understand how that is created and how everybody agrees it's legal tender, your whole game changes. All right. The next thing that is really, really key, number 10, how they use other people's money to build wealth. The wealthy use other people's money to build wealth, okay? That could be a bank, that could be shareholders, that could be private investors, it could be all sorts of different tricks that they do. But they've really, really understood that that's really, really important, that if they want to get ahead using other people's money, and of course, what they do is they present value to the market. So in our business thing, we have people who invest in us and we trade their money to create wealth, okay? So we're using their money to create wealth for ourselves because they see the value of what we bring to the marketplace. And that's really, really key to understanding. All right, number 11, in terms of what the wealthy are doing that the rest of the population aren't, they understand the 3 pillars of wealth and utilize these 3 areas to create active and passive incomes in these 3 traditional areas: business, property, and trading, all right? Those 3 areas traditionally, historically, is where wealth has been built. You could also throw in precious metals in some instances, but those 3 are pretty much where wealth is created and historically has been shown as consistent with time. And I saw that working in those law, accounting, and financial planning firms. Number 12, what they do, they know how to pass on their wealth to the children tax-free, 100% legally, all right? So if your kids can benefit and do it so they don't have to pay tax on their inheritance, this is really powerful. And even put in protection measures where, of course, if they have an ex-partner, they can lock an ex-partner out of those finances. So it really protects generational wealth. That's really, really powerful. Typical example, 2 kids inherit one home, 50-50 each. One says, I want to live in it. The other says, I'll sell my share. They do a deal. I say, all right, I'll live in it and I'll buy you out. Fantastic. The moment they change the title on the property, they trigger capital gains tax and stamp duty in Australia. There are wills that eliminate that. They eliminate if that child has a nasty ex-partner and the nasty ex hears they're coming into money, these wills can protect them. Additionally, if the child is facing bankruptcy, and instead of them receiving their inheritance, and that inheritance just goes and pays out all their bad debts, these wills can hold back their inheritance until the bankruptcy is discharged, and then they can receive their inheritance. So it's very powerful in protecting the next generations. And the wealthy know this, and they want to, of course, do this with very good lawyers who can protect that for their kids. It's one of the most easiest ways in terms of wealth creation to pass it on, because it doesn't require personal effort to set up a will, correct will. So that's a lot of information. What I'll do before we go any further is ask if there are any questions.
We have a question. Okay.
Sure.
All right, this is from Chrissy. Can you give advice on how to best get new contracts for startup businesses?
Oh, that's all about marketing, Chrissy. So for a business to grow, one of the things I do is cause a problem in my business. If I want it to grow, I deliberately will do that so that I will have to stretch and cause problems that I'll have to now put new systems in place so that it'll expand. Okay? Yeah. So what you want to do is you don't want to be self-employed. You want other people working for you. Okay, so you want to get to a point where you're managing 5, 6, 10 different cleaners because you've got all that work coming in and you're not actually on the tools doing it. But you can step in if something happens or need be, like if somebody's sick or whatever, right? But that's what you want to do is train yourself out of a job. Now, yeah, you're going to have to share profits. You're going to have to pay them to do that. But hey, if you can get it to 5, 10 different cleaners doing that for you, you're going to make more money that way, and you'll have your time back, which is really, really important. So that's how to think about it. It's not how much do I gather in where I can't manage it. You go, no, I want to bring in so much that it causes huge problems that I've got to bring in cleaners and people to help me, because then that's going to expand my wealth. That'll grow my business.
Yes.
I think the Cash Flow Quadrant would be a really good book for Chrissy to listen to
Absolutely.
Or read. Because obviously cleaning, you're using your hands a lot, so it's hard to read, but you can have an earpiece in so you can listen to audiobooks while you clean. Yep. Especially if you're working on your own, it helps the time go faster.
There's a big difference between being self-employed and running a business. And the basic definition that Robert Kiyosaki points out is if you can go away from your business for 3 weeks and money still rocks in, you've got a business. If it stops, you're self-employed. So it's looking at how can I move towards it being a business. And that means it's got systems in place that it can keep going. With my Blue Sky Factory, I'm self-employed. It's very hard for me to let go of this and teach others to do it. But I've had other business opportunities. I've looked at it and go, do I weigh that up? Do I train myself at a job in that one? But I've had other bigger opportunities come up that I go, you know what, it's not worth going through that whole process. I'll just use that as a bit of a side thing that I do.
No, it was a great answer. So Chrissy had a question. You should have listened to this as well.
Thank you so much.
I think this would be great for you to listen to.
Using all your
It'll
time.
cost you $47.
Sorry, I can't hear Chrissy. Sorry. Chrissy, what did you say? Can you repeat that?
I said thank you so much, but yeah, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. I hope that helps.
I hope you're not spending all your time on me. On my,
You know you're the renter crowd.
well, yeah, I'm kind of using it. What else? I was going to ask you something. Yeah, I'm not sure if I can ask, but I've got a contract at the moment, and he's kind of hit me with, well, I thought you were going to be doing you're going to be doing the cleaning. So now he's got a bit of a problem. And it's like, well, no, we spoke about, I've got a business and...
Yeah, it's managing people's expectations up front. That's really, really key here. So if you go in saying, one of our team will be helping you clean this building, then from the outset, he or she understands it's not necessarily you.
Well, I said 2 people. All the time, there'll always be 2 people, and it's in the contract and everything, but he's just come up with, I thought you were going to do the cleaning.
Yeah. Yep. No, it's just managing that expectation from the beginning. That's really, really important. So when I work with people in terms of when they do one of my training courses, I have a 12-page document that outlines all the terms and conditions what we expect from them, what they'll expect from us, what they'll get. And then what I try to do is over-deliver in that process, is actually give more than I actually have promised or they've bought.
Yes,
So they go, oh, wow, this person really does it. So, I'll give them personal calls and that sort of stuff to check up on how they're doing and all that sort of thing. That's that wow factor. And you've just got to work out what the wow factor is in your business that they wouldn't expect, that you don't promise, that you don't put out there. It's like there's a really nice hotel in Melbourne, right?
Yeah.
And you stay there and it's really ritzy and all that sort of stuff. And it's not the Ritz, but it's nice. And you come back after the first day and they've left chocolate on your bed, right? Once the house cleaner's gone through and done that. Well, I wasn't expecting the chocolate. It's really nice chocolate. That's really nice, and it wasn't expected. And it's those little wow factors that make a big difference in business.
Yes.
Improve the experience. So with a cleaning business, you go, okay, what's one thing that people hate or don't expect when they, just that little extra thing, like it might be putting up a bouquet of flowers. I don't know, I'm just making this up. That, hey, that wasn't asked for. Where did this come from? It's from your cleaner. Oh, okay. I'm not saying you do that every day, but you might do that after a period of time.
Well, we're doing really well. I think we're doing really well, and we're doing such a good job that I get feedback from his staff, saying that the customers are saying to them how awesome the shop is looking, how clean it is, and it hasn't been so clean for so long and whatever. But I think they're just trying to find a way, because he's saying, oh, well, it's too expensive, maybe, blah, blah, blah. Oh, I just think what you're charging is, I said, well, you had the contract, you signed the contract, you knew how much it was. We could have discussed it there and then, and come up with another, something we could have talked about it. But anyway,
the key for me is getting the eye off the price.
He's trying to find something where he doesn't want to spend the money. He doesn't want.
Then he's probably not the right customer for you.
No, exactly.
Right. And so that's fine. If you want cheap cleaning, then I'm not your person. You just kind of, you go, your self-worth. And this is that key I told you about, self-worth. Yeah. You're not competing on price. You go, your customers are giving you reports of how clean it is. It's never looked this way before. And they want to return to that environment. However, if you don't want that environment for your customers, that's fine. That's totally your business and your decision. I'll find business owners who do want that for their businesses. And then you go, he's kind of like, he's doing it on your terms, not the other way around. You're doing it on his terms. And one of the things that is really important in business is a lot of people go, I've got to get the lowest price. That's a defeating battle, right? Because when you play the price game, you always lose, trying to undercut everyone else. It's actually showing how much value you bring. That's really, really important. You're going to get this, this, and this. And not only are you going to get this, but I'm going to throw in this as well for you.
What I did is I wrote a whole big list of everything that we've been doing, that we've done, and all extras and extras on top of the extras and everything. And I've done a whole list. But he doesn't know I've got that, because he's pretty much said, well, what we're doing is we're going to take the Wednesday off, and because we don't think you're doing more than what that for the price and blah, blah, blah. You're not doing enough. Anyway, so I've given him a list and I showed it to him. He goes, oh, can you send that to me? And I said, oh, yeah, I will later. I've just got to go through it. And because he said to me, oh, well, tomorrow I want to send you scope and everything that I want done and blah, 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 extra and everything. And it's been over a week now. Hasn't sent anything.
And you go, sure, you can send me the scope and it's going to cost you an extra amount of this, this, and this. Yep, we can do that as an additional package for you. Because you say, look, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to have to bring someone else in to help me do that. Yeah. It's knowing your self-worth and value.
Well, this is it, yeah. So that's what you're saying.
And what you do is you don't sell them on, hey, we clean your toilets and your whatever. What we do is we help you. We help your customers have an amazing experience visiting your business. That's what you're selling.
It's a place to come to, have it nice and clean and.
But that's what I've given you as a nugget there. What you're selling in all your marketing is not we clean your building. It's we create a space and environment for your customers to have an incredible experience engaging with your business. That's what you're selling.
I'm going to write this down.
The first
Thank you.
impression, whenever someone comes to a new business, is created in a split second.
Yep.
If they step through that door and it stinks like shit, it looks like dusty as hell, and it's just not a clean place, people are likely not to come back.
Yep.
And the cost to chase down new customers is way more than retaining current customers.
Yep.
So that's another point that you can actually use as well.
Yep.
Yes.
Getting repeat sales from really good clients is easier and costs less than trying to get a new customer.
Pearls of wisdom from Travis.
It's good.
All right, you want to start the recording again?
Yep. Oh, you didn't record that?
Yeah, we recorded it,
good.
but we were making noises getting Aaron
Oh,
in
good.
and out.
Okay.
So, what I can do is, hey, Chrissy,
Yes.
are you happy for that to be in the recording?
They were great questions.
Are you sure? Yeah.
Yeah. They were really good
Okay.
questions.
Because
What question were you up to
Yeah.
when I was coming in and out?
well, I really
See,
appreciate
Derek
you.
was so focused on you, Chrissy, that he didn't even know that Aaron left the building.
I wasn't even focused on what you guys were doing.
Well,
I
was
feel a
just
bit bad. I was
worried
telling you
because
boys off. I can't hear Chrissy.
No, that's perfect. It shows your dedication to her. So,
Well, I was a bit worried that I was going to ask the wrong questions for.
no, Chrissy, there's no such thing as the
Sorry.
wrong question.
There's no dumb questions. I'd rather you ask the dumb question than
I'm not
wonder
dumb.
what I do.
Wrong.
No, the way I say that one,
Yeah.
especially in and this comes to a lot of people, they're too scared to actually ask the questions in fear of looking stupid.
Yep.
Well,
If
I'm
you-
asking because I really want my business to grow, and I want so much, and I just feel that I think I'm just lucky to have you to ask these questions to.
Yeah. Pleasure.
I seriously think Chrissy needs to do your big course. I don't know if she can afford it yet, but I'll send me the packages and I'll send it
Well,
to
I'm
Chrissy
about to
for
get
you.
into that now.
Oh, perfect.
Oh, what's that about?
One of the things, just going back to that stupid questions, would you rather ask a stupid question and feel embarrassed for 5 minutes, or make a really, really stupid mistake that can cost you forever?
You're just vocalizing what someone else is thinking.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
All right.
Good.
Let's rehash the
right.
first questions,
All right.
What?
and then we'll go back on from there. So at the moment, we're just on you. I left it out, just you
Yep.
image.
So where do you want to go? So I'll just go. Are there any questions?
Yeah, that's where we're going to go from. All right, Luan, can you mute your thing?
Okay. She's not here, but I'll do that for you. Yes.
All right,
But
thanks,
can I
Chrissy.
say thank you so much. I really appreciate your information.
Oh, great questions, Chrissy. Thanks for being a part of it.
Awesome.
All right. So what do you want to do now?
I am going to re-sort my screen out, so we're good to go.
So let's go back to the PowerPoint now.
Aren't we doing questions first?
Oh, I thought we did them. Okay.
No, we didn't, but we just got to redo the first
All right.
question. So it will be a question from Chrissy, and then we'll have another cut. That's our
Okay.
cut line, and then we'll go into the next set of slides.
Okay. And so now we got. And so now I'll take some. I feel so artificial.
You are artificial.
So I'll take some questions now. Are there any questions that have come up that you might be wondering about?
All right, we do have one question here from Chrissy. She asks, can you give advice on how best to get new contracts for a startup business?
Okay, depends on the business and depends on the business model in some ways. But one of the things that I did, I actually did a marketing course myself and had a business coach help me, and it was one of the best things I did. And that's getting leads in so you can sell. And one of the things that he said is you need to have 10 different systems of marketing in your business, right? And he would teach 11, so you can choose 10 out of them. He said one of them you can drop, all right? One that you don't like. So, but you need 10. And the reason is that you can have 9, you may have a business where 10 systems are going and one of them doesn't work one month, but you've got another 9 to draw on. And that was the concept. So, they would range from social media through to physically going and targeting businesses that you do want business with and engage with. And I'm not going to give all his thunder away because obviously that's his intellectual property. But why not I give him a free plug? Wes Hone was his name from Business Greenhouse. I think it's called Business Greenhouse. Wes Hone was a really good marketer. So tell him you got this information from here. Derek recommended him. But yeah. it's having those systems in place that if one is fails, you got another 9 systems that are working for that given business. And what we do is, in terms of rolling them out, get one system going really well, just focus on that for the whole entire month, put systems in place so it's working really well. And then the next month you get the next program going while the other one's still already working.
All right, and a bit of a follow-up question on that one. What would you say is the most cost-effective for startup businesses, considering cash flow might be a bit of an issue when they first start?
I think obviously in the early stages of business, a lot of funds generally in terms of small businesses go back into the business, and that has to have some sort of advertising budget of some description. Often what people do when they're starting out a business is they do it as a side hustle. They don't quit their jobs, and they transition to that point where the business is generating enough income till they can do that. For me, it was I had a side job that I could do and allowed me to do my appointments during the day and then go back and make some bucks to pay the bills, because they don't go away. But I left at the point when my business was making 3 times the amount more than I was making in my job, part-time job. Yeah, and it was a point where I needed to go. I was not happy. But I don't know if I answered your question there. I think in terms of reach, I think also thinking about where your customers gather. You want your business in front of them, where they gather. So I'll do things too, like I'll go to a lot of networking business breakfasts. I'll do those from time to time. I've been asked to speak at those as well. And you meet a lot of great people that you end up doing business with there, and getting customers from those spaces. And I think one of the keys to really understand is you don't go in acting like you're selling. That the business market these days is, can I help you? Can I help you and assist you in what you're trying to achieve and do? And that's the way to sell these days is use that kind of tactic, rather than coming out, hey, you need to buy from me. You need this. It's like, hey, can I help you improve your business and your life? And often you give stuff away for free or nothing, and people sense, hey, that was really good. Like you might give them time over a coffee and talk about their business for me and hear what they have to say about that. Or it could be as simple as well, would you like me, like say for a cleaning business, can I go through your business and just point out some highlights that will really make a difference if you get these things done for you in your business. That will make a big difference in terms of how your customers perceive you and how your employees enjoy the workspace that you're in. All right. Well, those are great questions. Thanks for putting those in, guys. So some of you might be thinking, well, where do I go from here? And we actually do have a course that you can do that can develop and teach you more of the things that the wealthy do that the rest of the population don't. And it's called Building the Wealth Foundation. It's commencing really, really soon. And in this, you're going to discover so much. One, you'll discover which external factors have been controlling your behavior and made it so hard for you to get ahead financially. All right. There are things that are going on in your life and in your mindset that are stopping and blocking you from getting ahead. And we have to address that. And you need to know what's out there that actually can put you and propel you into your life purpose. The second one, what mindsets have blocked your ability to build wealth and how to push through them to think differently. As I highlighted, the wealthy think differently, and you need to do the same if you're really serious about this. What the wealthy do to practically set up their wealth and pay as little tax possible legally. We've dived into that today, but we can get into the nitty gritty of how that all works, what structures do what are the rules around it. That's a really powerful thing and really important to have a really good grasp on, because if business opportunities come up, if you understand structuring, you'll know how to set it up and make it all work, the mechanics of it. Also, we'll look at the practical financial models that can be easily applied to the average Joe's financial situation that make a significant difference, okay? Really practical stuff, hands-on stuff in terms of bank accounts, how to set that up, what to do in terms of the paperwork in a business and all that sort of stuff is really, really key. Also, you'll discover the 3 pillars of wealth. We'll dive in deeper with that, where wealth has been traditionally made historically and will continue to do so as history has a habit of repeating itself. We'll look at how the wealthy protect their families financially and what they do to be prepared from financial storms. We're going to be looking at financial strategies the wealthy use to increase their income so they can leverage their ability to invest, work less, and create multiple cash flow streams. and most importantly, discover the preferred economy over our current oppressive one that our entire financial system operates within. We show you the system. We pull back the curtains and go, this is why you aren't getting ahead, because what's happening is in this system that's built this way, it's putting you behind from the start, and you need to work in this other model that basically was the original design that you were meant to do. And when you operate on that level, it puts you ahead financially. Once you discover this new way of doing things, you'll wish you knew this when you were a teenager. I wish they taught this in school, but you'll discover that the school system has really trained you to be an employee for the rest of your life. Do what you're told, stand up, go to the toilet when you can, apply for holidays when you can, etc. So we'll be doing something very, very, very unique in this course, all right? And that will be this. Over the space of 20 weeks, we'll be opening the opportunity for a unique group of students to be placed in an environment where they'll learn these advanced strategies, okay? Now, normally this course is $3,445. However, for the first 10 students who enroll to edgeradioaustralia.com's broadcast here, will receive a significant discount of 15% off. This works out to just 20 easy monthly payments of only $149.75, all right? $149.75 to help you have the key education on how to propel you in terms of building the wealth foundation. Plus, for the first 10 students who enroll, they'll receive an access to the Trader's Starting Kit as well, valued at $169. We throw that in for free, all right? So you can do that as well. And I'm going to give you an insane guarantee. If you do the course, and by the end of the 20 weeks, you've not learned one single new thing in the entire course, then I will refund your course investment to you, 100%, all right? So as you can see, what I'm doing, I'm taking on all the risk in this deal, and you have nothing to lose. Now, why would I do such an insane thing? Because I'm so passionate about people living their life purpose and what they're really meant to be doing in their lives. Our nation needs you to be doing that. We need you on your life of purpose and assignment, and not doing something that you hate and your family suffers for it, the cat suffers for it, your partner suffers for it. We need you living your life purpose. The world needs you doing it. And that's why I'm doing this insane guarantee. So as you can see, I'm taking on all the risk in the deal. However, we must warn you though, if you decide to do this course, you will never be able to look at money in the same way again. You will be ruined for life, and it will be very difficult for you to go back to the way things were, all right? Because you'll always be exposed to what could be, all right? We always, as humans, want better, all right? So we'll show you better, but you will be ruined for life. So if you want to live in the abyss and just living in your little world, don't do this course. It's not the right one for you, okay? But we do warn you, you'll never be able to look at it the same way. Additionally, when you take on our services, you need to know up front, we are not a licensed financial planning firm. So I won't be giving you specific or general advice. We're simply an educational company that gives factual information and education. For any general or specific financial advice, please see a licensed financial planner, okay? So, in summary, the first 10 receive access to Building the Wealth Foundation for the discounted price of $2,995, 20 payments of just $149.75. Otherwise, you'll pay $3,445. Plus, you get the Trader Starting Kit for free, valued at another $169. So you get that thrown in there as well. And the insane money back guarantee that if you don't learn one new thing by the end of the course, you will receive a full refund. That's how confident we are that we want this to be of value to you. So the question is, are you ready? Are you ready to step forward and take on this new knowledge? Are you ready to live your life purpose? If you are, simply take on Building the Wealth Foundation by doing this. Simply email me your name and phone number to Derek@blueskyfactory.com. Now, blue is spelt without an E there, just to be tricky on the marketing. Derek, D-E-R-E-K, @blueskyfactory.com.au. And just get in touch with me with your phone number and your name, and perhaps even the state you're in, so I'm not calling you at a ridiculous hour because of the time differences around the country. So I just know who you are and where you're located. And we can discuss further and answer any questions that you might have.